Middle of that big snowstorm and blizzard she always talks about, she decided today, before Super Tuesday, to drop out of the race. She will go to Dallas tonight, and she will endorse Vice President Joe Biden in the Democratic race for the nomination. Let's bring in Marc Thiessen. He's a Fox News contributor, American Enterprise Institute fellow. He also used to work at the White House, but also you got to check out his podcast, What the H is Going On, which is one of my favorite podcasts. There's just a little bit of news.
Hockey sticks.
Yeah, HE double hockey sticks. I'm just going to read this off my phone for a moment because breaking news in the commercial break came to mind. Reuters and Politico are both pointing to some news that Pete Buttigieg could be endorsing Joe Biden tonight in Dallas as well. Politico tweeting that a private jet has filed a flight plan from South Bend to Dallas tonight. And of course, we know Amy Klobuchar will already be there for Joe Biden tonight. So what do you make of this strategy for these Democrats to get together? Is it to try to stop Bernie Sanders?
It's trying to stop Bernie Sanders. It's trying to get jobs in the Biden administration also, too, probably. Look, there's been a number of developments in the last few days. So Joe Biden had his resounding victory in South Carolina. You now have Buttigieg and Klobuchar pulling out. And so there's a candidate surging as a result of it. And it's not Joe Biden. It's none of the above. If you look at the 538 projection for who's most likely to go into the convention, no one is winning with 65% chance of going into the convention with nobody. Sanders has a 20% chance. Biden has a 15% chance. Bloomberg and Warren both have a 0.1% chance of winning the nomination going into the convention. So what that means is that the most likely result is that Sanders is probably going to go into the convention with a plurality but not a majority, which means we would have a contested convention for the first time since 1952.
And do you think,
yes, there's a...
Do you think that Buttigieg and Klobuchar are maybe trying to prevent that from happening?
It's entirely possible, yes. So they're trying to consolidate the middle lane. The problem with that is that the reason they're both out of the race is because they don't have a lot of support to throw to Joe Biden. Michael Bloomberg, may not be doing that great in the polls, but he's got $2 billion. And $2 billion can keep you above the threshold to be taken seriously. So the real spoiler for Joe Biden is Michael Bloomberg.
I want you to listen to Michael Bloomberg talking about how he sees things and what he thinks voters really want.
The middle of the road doesn't want extremism. They want evolution rather than revolution. And if Bernie Sanders is the candidate, Donald Trump will win. Donald Trump not only will win, but the House will go back to being in Republican hands. The Senate will stay in Republican hands.
But Sanders is not backing down. Take a listen to what he said yesterday about Biden in California.
Please do not forget, Joe Biden voted for the war in Iraq. Joe Biden voted for terrible trade agreements. Joe Biden voted for a bankruptcy bill, which hurt the working families of this country big time. Now, my point here is not to just be negative about Joe. My point is to ask you all, what campaign is going to defeat Donald Trump?
And it almost just comes down to that, right? You can see these two stark paths to getting to the nomination.
Yeah, so this is a Sanders-Biden race, and each of them has an albatross hanging around their necks. Joe Biden's albatross is Michael Bloomberg, which is a $2 billion albatross, and Sanders' albatross is Elizabeth Warren. So as long as the two of those folks are in the race, what's happening is that the Democrats are stumbling towards a contested convention. Bernie Sanders is focusing on Biden because, number one, he's his main threat to the nomination, and two, because he's got basically 3 shots in this month to knock him down and go into that convention with a majority, not a plurality.
Yeah, and you're right. And you've got to imagine that the Biden team is looking over at Bloomberg going, these two have dropped out. Where are you going to be? But there will be a town hall tonight, and Martha and Brett, of course, I'm sure will ask that. Marc Thiessen, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on.